I do it right, Randy?
I just turned it on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
But I didn't, I filled it up with water.
Oh, this one was a little.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay. Well, thank you to everyone who is wearing their orange shirt today, but also tomorrow as you're out wandering about. It's the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The actual day when we remember that there will always be a need to be aware that a grave miscarriage of justice, power, and greed occurred in the lives of the Indigenous community when the settlers from other countries arrived on the shores of this continent. They claimed it for their own, enforced their own beliefs and values in a flawed and arrogant manner on a community which already had strong ties to and respect for Mother Earth. They were people who valued the personhood of each person and never believed that they owned the land, but it was there to be shared with those who cherished it in the same manner they did. May we continue to work in this area of the Robinson-Huron Treaty of the Algonquin people, of acknowledging that there is still work to be done in helping them to reclaim the culture they lost and rebuilding their identities so that we may all benefit from their wisdom and healing from the past. This is, of course, our fourth and last Creation Sunday, and we're going to be talking about trees today. Keep your mic on, Elaine. Oh, should I?
Yeah, that would be nice. There, that is there.
Many in the Indigenous community feel protected and at peace in the presence of trees. But the trees are often more comforting than anything else, and they are essential. Trees give fruit and shade and shelter. They offer a habitat for animals and arrows so that the people can hunt. Trees share medicine for illnesses and provide teachings and spiritual guidance. The Indigenous people believe that the people to understand how important, they felt that it was important for people to understand that access to these things were important to everyday life. The Anishinaabe knowledge of the trees and their gifts comes from generations of experience. I've included some pictures that make it so obvious how important those trees are, especially the people who needed their shelter from the heat and the rays of the sun in a way that we can't imagine. Because we are surrounded by trees, and we can easily move from one to the next one as we need. Trees provide homes for animals, places of protection for them from the seasons. Trees are good for our souls. As the Indigenous people believe, they're essential to the air we breathe. They provide a majestic example of strength and perseverance. And I love this tree. It had fallen, but as you see, it continued to gain and plant down new roots along the way. So they provided an example of strength and perseverance in the face of adversity, despite threats to their survival. Yet the times are ever increasing when they haven't been able to defend themselves. Oh, there's some more animals.
Oh, neat. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, beautiful pictures. But, here it is. They are harvested. And that word makes it sound so much better, doesn't it? And used perhaps for valid purposes and needs, but still there's little thought given to the future, to those who have been misplaced, to the ugliness that is left behind, to ways their removal could have been prevented if we had just recycled, reused, and rethought our priorities. I saw a story about toilet paper in the news this week, and how trees are used, of course, to make it. Definitely a one-use item only. Did you know that the paper industry chops down 270,000 trees every day to keep up with the demand for toilet paper? Per day. Might now be time to consider the alternatives because we are entrusted with the task of caring for creation. People often think that we need to use regular wood for toilet paper because anything else would be too hard, but nothing could be further from the truth. What if we switch to, do you know what this is? Hemp. Hemp. What if we switch to hemp? Yeah, not from the stalks left from your special plants that you have hidden among your other plants in the garden, or out in the back 40 among the corn stalks, but hemp planted for this purpose. Look at the side, look at that little man there in front and how tall they are.
Yeah.
Hemp toilet paper actually provides a naturally softer paper tissue because the fibers in the stems are finer than their tree equivalent and they're stronger too. Hemp toilet paper also has a significantly lower environmental impact because the manufacturing process is a lot less dependent on toxic chemicals. Another advantage of hemp over wood is that it contains 3 times more cellulose fibers than wood pulp, which means that pound for pound, it provides a lot more usable fibers. But here's an important fact, a really important fact. Hemp grows a lot faster than trees. With some varieties of trees, they have a 20-year growth cycle. The fastest growing hemp plants will get to the harvestable size in about 4 months in the ideal growing conditions. As a result, every acre of land cultivated with hemp can produce 4 times as much hemp toilet paper as regular. Does that put things for us in more perspective? And we all think that toilet paper is biodegradable, and you would be right. But because hemp toilet paper contains fewer chemicals from the initial processing, it breaks down and degrades at a lot faster than ordinary paper. Hemp is also a highly sustainable crop as farming methods can ensure that they don't drain all of the soil's nutrients. There are some other positive things about hemp, but this info really isn't suitable for church conversation, so you can look them up. But hemp production will likely not get off the ground in our lifetime, sadly. So we'll just have to try and take better care of the trees we have, mourn the ones that are taken unnecessarily because it's easier, less expensive, and the harvesters don't live here anyway. They live in corporate offices and are quite content to admire their concrete jungles that surround them and enjoy their hefty profits, perhaps at our expense. Let's sing. You call us to worship God, you call us to prayer. As we express our thanks, as we pray for the troubled, you hear us. You call us to worship God, you inspire us to praise. As we sing the hymns, as our voices join in harmony, you join with us. You call us to worship God, you call us to hear the word. As we listen to the scriptures, as we are brought into thoughtfulness and actions, you speak to us. So let us now welcome the Creator of all that surrounds us and inspires us to live lives of faithfulness, especially today, honoring life-giving trees. Let's sing about it.
The
also to hold up our worries. If God is with us, we are able to enjoy the laughter and the joy of children, but also hear the concerns of older folk. If God is with us, we will be open to considering the needs of this faith community, but also the needs of the oppressed far from here. And if God is with us, the impact of Jesus' teachings will come home to us, creating new realities in our time. We say, if God is with us. Thankfully, we know you surround us right now, God, in love, with forgiveness, before us, behind us, above us, as we open ourselves to the ways of your Son, and how they may play out in our lives. For these things we are forever grateful, and express this in the prayer we were given that binds us into one community of faith. To page 848. 848. Did I tell you this, Norma?
No, you didn't.
Oh, really? Okay, we're doing a frame one. Frame one. You know that one? You know that one? You're gonna stump because you're a good woman. Okay. Norma's gonna play it once, then we'll sing the refrain once, and then we'll get to the words. Want to play it again? Our help comes.
You start.
Our help comes from God, the maker of heaven and earth. Okay, let's do it. Our help comes from God, the maker of heaven and earth. If God had not been at our side, if God had not been at our side when mortals rose up against us, when they were swallowed alive, when their fury was roused against us, then the flood would have swept us away and the torrent would have covered us. And the raging waters would have gone right over our heads. Our help comes from God, the maker of heaven and earth. But praise be God who has not given us as prey to their teeth. He has saved the bird from the hunter's snare. The snare is broken and we are free. Our help comes from God, the maker of heaven and earth. Okay. It was the imagery at the end of that song that caught my attention. It imagines a bird escaping, wings flapping, perhaps with a screech. It makes us think that if a bird was made with wings, it must have been meant to fly, right? It's a logical connection. Take to the air to be able to swoop and dive and soar freely. Should they ever really be caged for us just to admire as their sole purpose? Does that seem right? How can they glorify their creator in a cage? So just some thoughts to think about. Maybe as you're sitting outside today and watching a bird overhead. Maybe not a pigeon, but some other nice bird.
Yeah.
But there's also that idea of escaping in those last 3 lines. We have escaped like a bird from the hunter's snare. The snare is broken and we are free. I did not know that he was going to be here today. And in that call to worship, we talked about the laughter and joy of the children. See, Angela, that's the spirit working again. You know? Where am I? Okay, talking about escaping. When do we feel as if we need to escape? Perhaps some burdens have seemed overwhelming. Some sadness that prevents us from fully enjoying life. Perhaps the effects from some traumatic event, especially something that happened a long time ago but has hung on, limiting how or if we can actually move on. Is there something you need to escape from, to be free from? Something holding you back from moving on? The question now is, how does that happen? Certainly it takes a lot of effort on our part, especially being willing to seek the practical help that's out there that we need. But there's also what our faith life provides us with, which suggests that we start with prayer. And then keep on praying. I don't want to say end with prayer too, because there's always going to be something in our lives that needs to be resolved. And if there isn't something like that in your life, then continue praying for the rest of us, please. And if we feel assured like David did, because he supposedly wrote these songs, that God is with us from the start and will continue to be with us, we will be freed to move forward into a newness of life. Angela is going to come up now and lead us in the song, Lord, listen to your children praying. And while she's doing that, and we're going to end up joining her in song, think about what burden you need to lay down, where you need to ask for help. So Angela's going to sing it as a solo. Then she's going to sing it with Norma. And then we're going to join in with them. And then we're going to do whatever comes to us, whatever our hearts and voices tell us to do. All right. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Lord, listen to your children praying. Lord, send your spirit in this place. Lord, listen to your children praying. Send us love, send us power, send us grace. nothing like a good celebration. Feasting, dancing, gift-giving. Purim is one such holiday. It's held in March by our Jewish brothers and sisters. Other than Lois and Dawn, who knows what it celebrates? Well, it's contained all about it in the story of the book of Esther. It's one of only 2 books in the Bible that does not mention the name of God. Does anybody know what the other one is? Song of Solomon. So I was gonna have somebody read the lectionary story, but then I thought, I'm really talking about all that, so we're gonna skip that. And besides that, when I started to ramble on, it went to 8 pages, and I didn't think you wanted to hear on such a lovely day for too long. So I'm just gonna continue reading. Because sometimes it's a difficult decision what scripture reading I want to choose to reflect on. And, but it was really easy this week because it's a story that I love and the other women especially love. Her story, Esther's story. The problem is, though, that the reading doesn't include the introduction. And maybe those who created the lectionary had to pare down the story so that it would be more manageable to preach on just in one Sunday. Or they thought that Esther's story could stand alone. But I like to think that no one's story is not affected in some way, big or little, by what came before us. It may be the country our family immigrated from a few generations ago, the culture traditions that we have continued to observe, the recipes that have remained old favorites, the stories that they left for those who came after, when they could celebrate the courage and strength that their ancestors displayed in times of adversity, their willingness to remain firm in what they stood for, even to dying for what they believed in. So I just couldn't start mentioning I couldn't start without mentioning the opening of the story. I had to at least set the scene, the context, the background for how Esther's story came to be worth recording. And it all started out in a foreign country. And it ended there. But it's all about a snapshot of the history of the Jewish people and how they survived because of the gutsy actions of a woman with help and encouragement from her uncle. And it can still provide us with some encouragement today for the difficult times in our lives when we have had to choose whether to speak up or whether to stay silent. So what we don't hear in the story is how Esther, the Jewish woman in our story, managed to find herself to be the queen to the future king of Persia, foreign king of Persia, which was not a safe place for God's chosen people. So I want to tell you about that part of the story. It all started with Queen Vashti, Esther's predecessor. Vashti is said to have descended from a king who was responsible for the destruction of the temple. And therefore, according to Midrash, which is a Jewish interpretation of historical stories, she is said to deserve her unhappy fate because she was wicked and vain. Now, this would seem to imply that when the laws were broken by one generation, the consequences of sinning was passed on down through the generations. We've heard of that, the sins of the father shall be, not something we believe in today, but it was rather a damning indictment in past times. I hope we don't choose to see her that way. Because her story began when the king was throwing the granddaddy of all parties, and he told his eunuchs to go and tell Vashti to put on her crown and nothing else, and come and show herself to all of his slobbering, drunken buddies, for she was fair to behold. Believe me, he wasn't really complimenting her. He just wanted to entertain his friends. Can we even imagine the courage it took her to say, "Not in your life"? The king was all-powerful. She had absolutely no power except the power within herself. All she had to do, really, was to put her sense of self, her dignity, her pride on hold for an hour or two. Do a little dance in front of these men. Could that be so bad? Would it have killed her? But Vashti saw herself as something more than a piece of meat. Can we even imagine the courage it took her to say no? All she had to do was just give them an hour. But she had standards. She was something more than a boy toy. She wasn't about to lower them, even if it meant that she might be dethroned or maybe even die for telling the king to, you fill in the words. Some of us might be more descriptive than others. So she said no. Did this make her one of the early examples of a feminist in the scriptures, an independent-minded heroine? She may not have been a Jewish woman, and maybe that's why she isn't usually talked about when we reflect on stories in scripture. But we're all children of God, created to do good in this world, and we can't limit how God chooses to work and who God chooses to do the work. So, after she said no, the king asked his advisor what should be done with her, and he said that Vashti had definitely wronged him, but then he went further. He said that all the wives of all the husbands in Persia might now be encouraged by Vashti's actions to disobey their spouses. And God forbid that should happen. So the whole feminist thing, the fear of women doing their own thing, expressing their own opinions, speaking up, really started a long time ago. And now action had to be taken. Luckily for Vashti, it seems that she was only banished. We don't know if she was sent packing with her clothes and her servants, or was it just the garments on her back and no one now to help her with her morning toilet? Was her whole family kicked out of the palace with her? Or did some deny her being their relative in order to maintain their place in the royal court? If we think back in history, especially during the wars, we can find examples of how similar events happened. People trying to save themselves at the expense of others or the truth. It's sad but true, but this may still be happening. Anyway, there's no record of what happened to Vashti, except her courage to stand up for what she believed in, her rights. So, Vashti's gone. She needs to be replaced. And this is where Esther's story starts. She made it through the preliminary rounds of the beauty contest the king organized to replace Vashti. And finally, she was the one who caught his eye. She was the victoress. Is that a real word? If you have the victor, she's a victoress. Anyway, she was the victoress who went on to wear the crown. Now, things should have gone all tickety-boo, but Esther's uncle Mordecai, who was her guardian, ticked off Haman, the king's right-hand man, by not bowing to him. And when Haman found out that Mordecai was Jewish, he proposed to the king that all Jews in the kingdom should be slaughtered. Enter Esther, the heroine. She heard about the plot. And when the king asked her at a second banquet that Haman had been invited to, what he might give her, she only asked for her life and the lives of her people, that they be spared. She didn't want half the kingdom that he had offered her. She wasn't greedy. All she wanted was the safety of her people. To make this happen, she exposed Haman, claiming that it was his plot to kill the Jews. And in turn, the king hung him on the gallows that Haman had prepared for Mordecai. Now, death and destruction did follow, but it was of anyone who planned now to kill the Jews. Unfortunately, they were just following the instructions that the king had given them through Haman. You've got to understand that the whole, post office service back then didn't really happen. And once you sent out the order, it was there. It couldn't be withdrawn. And so it was too late to rescind it. And so a new one was given to Mordecai, now second in charge to the king. He promoted him. And the Jews were authorized to kill anyone who threatened them. Now, alas, there's lots of needless destruction because of that flawed political system. Out of all this came the Feast of Purim each year. And our Jewish brothers and sisters honor the heroism of Esther, a woman who risked her life to save her people. It's celebrated by feasting and merriment, almsgiving, sending food to neighbors and friends, and chanting the text of Esther. It is perhaps the most joyous day in the Jewish year, with masquerades and plays and drinking of wine, even in the synagogue, which would be our church. So what comes from rehashing a story that makes no mention of God? As I said, God chooses whomever God wants to do what needs to be done. It is our choice whether to fall in with God's plans. I like to think that both these women did just that. Vashti recognized that her worth as a woman was not tied to her physical appearance, so that she would have to entertain men. And I believe that Esther got some of her courage from Vashti. She must have heard the gossip or community news, as some of us like to refer to it as. She must have heard it as it went around the harem regarding why Vashti had lost her position as queen. Certainly Esther's story should be a good basis for reflecting too for us today on what heroism means. We need to remember those whose heroism is lived out today quietly, day by day by day, and most often without recognition by anyone, often not even by themselves. But we believe that God knows who they are, those silent heroes. We all know of those who are living with chronic illnesses and the pain that goes with them. It's amazing to me and something of a miracle that they often are the ones who reach out in love to others whose struggles are so tiny in comparison. They smile, they encourage. These are silent heroes. Every once in a while, of course, there's a story in the newspaper on TV that someone has rescued another person from drowning or a fire. These heroes are often acknowledged with awards. There's the bravery and heroism of people in our armed forces. I think they deserve the title hero just for signing up, knowing the potential risk they are facing. And there are those whose bravery pales in comparison to the bravery and heroism of people whose entire lives requires of what their entire lives requires of them every day, and that's to lay aside that fear they encounter when they wake up each morning to face uncertainty, not knowing what may come. Think of those who huddle and wonder today when the bombs will strike, who hold their children and their aging parents, who dodge bullets to find the next safe place. Somehow they summon the sheer guts to do what they need to do. And it's often without the help of those who can just watch, but hopefully pray for them. There will be no one there to pin a medal on them when it all ends, if it all ends, and their stories will likely be lost in history. All of this springs out of the stories of Esther and Vashti. One misstep, one word out of place would have meant death for Esther and her people. Certainly Vashti found this out. Think of the courage it took now, thinking of tomorrow, for those who survive the residential and day schools to come forward and share their story in words and tears by awakening old, buried, horrific memories. Also that those whose lives were lost, whose lives were torn apart, denied their chance to grow up in their earth-defining culture with the great Gitche Manitou as their guide, would not be forgotten. They stand by or among those who continue to advocate for justice and truth and accountability and reconciliation. They are heroes to their people, and they should be to us. So this week, who are the heroes that we see around us? Whether we're in meetings, walking the streets, watching the news, who are the ones forgotten from our pasts? What do they look like? Are they young or old? Are they white, black, brown, Asian, indigenous? Wherever and whomever they are, give thanks for them when you see them being a hero. Let's sing the story now. Being allowed to serve is one of the greatest gifts we can be given, but we need to accept this work cheerfully and with enthusiasm. May the gifts that we bring today help us to serve as Jesus wants us to, both through the ministries of this congregation and in the wider world, especially through the M&S and sharing funds. Let us gather up what we brought to share. Wisdom, compassion, and the ability to love. Bless these gifts, that through them those who are perplexed may find wisdom, those who are distressed may find compassion, and those who are rejected may find love. We pray in the name of Jesus the giver. Amen. So, yes, thank everybody for wearing the orange shirt today. Yeah. And tomorrow you're supposed to go to Tim Hortons and buy an orange sprinkled donut. Sprinkled donut, and all the money will be going towards Indigenous charities. So, the studio tour continues this afternoon, and it was a really lovely time. There were lots of lovely things to look at and buy. I have a thank you card here. It says, "Dear congregation of St. Paul's, Emmanuel, Steve and myself and the kids would like to express our deepest appreciation on everyone who supported us through these difficult times. Logan and Savannah were especially touched by your generosity. Thank you so much from the Granger family, Steve and Becky and Logan and Savannah." And so what we had chosen to do was to send a gift to like Steve and Becky, but we also sent $1,000 to each of the kids because they had lost so much.
Yeah.
And yeah. So we were glad to be able to do that. The Christian Women's Group supposedly meets next Wednesday, but I don't. Oh, there you are. Look at that. I didn't think you were here. I have some mail for you. Oh, good. Yeah. And you're here too. There you go. Okay, that's nice of you to come back. Community choir on Thursday at 7:30. If you want to come sing, you can just mouth it and just enjoy the time too. You know, there's always that. Yeah, because music is always good for the soul. We're going to have a guest speaker next week. Courtney Kruger. Don't mind like a sieve. Courtney Kruger is going to come and speak on mental health and addictions and the youth in our community. And so you've all been given a flyer this morning, and this is put out by Planet Youth, which is, maybe not. Now you're going to be given a flyer. Planet Youth is the group that is now being, we're doing its work in all of Temiskaming and Kirkland Lake. We're in the central section, and we meet at least once a month. And I think we might have mentioned that last year we did a survey with the grade 11s, and they answered 60-some-odd questions about their use of certain drugs and alcohol and whatnot. But anyway, this contains a lot of the stats that came out of how they answered their questions, and it should really upset us, the numbers that have come out on here. Yeah, so we are hoping in some way to get involved, this church, because we have advertised outside here that this is a place for gathering. So Courtney's going to come and help us, talk to us about this, and some of us tend to not know what's going on out here. Yeah, so she's a delightful woman. Is there anything else other than that? Did you come with a
question?
yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And? Two-part question.
Oh, no.
So what's another name for Mount Sinai? Here's some whispering.
You afraid?
No, I said Sylvia Project.
Sylvia probably knows. Does Horeb ring a bell? Horeb?
Laura?
Okay. Second part of the question then. What is a very significant thing that we know from what happened on Mount Sinai, Mount Horeb? Exactly. That's where Moses
remedial biblical studies.
Scary.
All of us. Pam Stickney provided us with a good news story this week. A Colombian city, which is down in Colombia in South America, has created green corridors that mimic natural forests, and they are driving down temperatures in the metropolitan area. Their goal is to lower them by 5 degrees over the next decade. In mid-afternoon, you will find Nicholas Pineda. You'll find him crouched down on his haunches as cars zoom by on both sides. He is armed with a machete and he is weeding this thick strip of tree-lined greenery running between the lanes. And he has helped to sow and maintain hundreds of thousands of trees and plants across the city. It's Medellin, as part of a people-led scheme to fight back against extreme heat through this network of green corridors. It's a unique way to keep the city cool. Because rapid city expansion has led to severe urban heat building up, and the temperatures have rise significantly. Once you get out into the country, you'll really notice that. Asphalt roads, concrete buildings absorb the sun's heat for much longer than green infrastructure. And so to combat this, the city's launched this new development focused on people and plants. And they are producing and improving more than 70 hectares of green space, which includes 20 kilometers of shared routes with cycle lanes and pedestrian paths. The city's temperatures have already fallen 2 degrees in the first 3 years. So buildings have been adorned, isn't it beautiful, with green roofs and vertical gardens to beat the heat. I would just like, even if they didn't do that, I still think they're beautiful. The city's making these small interventions, hoping that they'll act together to have this big impact. By 2021, 2.5 million plants and 880,000 trees have been used. And the groundwork is carried on by just 150 citizen gardeners with the support of 15 specialized forest engineers. So this is absolutely beautiful work. Yeah, you see the building up of the sides of the building, of the gardens. What can we do? What can we do? What trees can we plant? Yes, let's do it. What's happening to our trees? To our area as the trees are cut down. So what are our temperatures doing? A good news story. Let's bring it home. Is there anything else that we need to share? What's going on this week? Okay. Then let us pray. God of the whole circle of humanity, without exception, you love us all. So with this in mind, we open ourselves to receive your wisdom. We know that we live in a broken world, and there are times when we have abetted this brokenness by our exclusion or indifference to those different from us, our timidness to speak out on behalf of others, our complacency that others will do the work by blaming and ignoring victims of injustice. So God bless us with the burden of being the voices of the voiceless, willing to speak out and make demands for the rights and freedoms that others have been denied. Bless us with the burden of looking beyond the familiar and near at hand to places and people outside our comfort zone for places to be of help. Bless us with the burden of listening to the many voices that cry for help and being able to best discern where our talents and treasures may best be used in ways that will please you. May your creation be among the things we are burdened to care for, entrusted to touch lightly, and openly calling its abusers to account for their actions. Bless us that the words of our prayers are offered first with others in mind and then ourselves. And so we pray for those who are struggling with matters of the mind and the heart and body. We especially pray for Sue McDuff and Cheryl and Ross and Tanya as they journey with Fred in these final days. May they feel surrounded by the Spirit through those who have treasured his place in their lives. And we keep in our prayers the family of Jerry Van Beek, who died tragically this week. Though relatively new to this community, may this family be supported as they grieve the loss of a husband, a father, and a faith-filled servant of God. Through our words, our signs of support, may tomorrow be a national day for truth and reconciliation when we join those who continue to advocate for justice and truth, accountability and reconciliation, but not only on one day of the year, but every day that our Indigenous brothers and sisters still feel overwhelmed with fears and memories of all that they have lost, but now work to recover. Bless us in our efforts to be your Son's faithful workers, wherever that takes us, whenever we are needed, with whomever asks us for help. May these things and any we quietly whisper in your ear be prayers that are answered as you feel is needed. Amen. Let us sing. Someone wrote this little poem. Her people are saved. Haman hangs on the gallows he prepared for the Jews. The people rejoice. The feast of Purim is celebrated. But Queen Esther reflects. Haman is hanged. His 10 sons are hanged. His followers are slaughtered. But I cannot rejoice. Lord, send a better way to achieve salvation. The God who called us to this place of worship now sends us out to proclaim the good news in at least our small corner of the world. May we go in hope, for God goes with us. Go in joy, for God is our companion. And go with courage, for God believes in us. We have nothing to fear and everything to gain. And reading for those on the internet, trees are poems that the earth writes upon the sky. That's by Khalil Gibran. And anyone who thinks fallen leaves are dead has never watched them dancing on a windy day. And finally, the tree is more than just a seed, then a stem, then a thinking trunk, and then a dead timber. The T is a slow, enduring force straining to win the sky. That's, I think, from Little Prince.